Welcome to our YouTube video series on employee payroll and the investigation of potential back pay. My name is Christopher Neufeld of Neufeld Legal, and in this particular video we're going to be looking at the concept of not necessarily blaming the payroll software itself, but actually looking at the users with respect to whether or not payroll is being properly reported and payroll is being properly calculated. Because what we see in very many payroll software programs is that there are existing features that are simply not being utilized that would enable compliance or something closer to compliance with the governing statute, in our case, the Alberta Employment Standards Code. Because what we have are some very important concepts that seem all too often to be missing from pay statements in Alberta, and that is wages and wage rate. And because of this, we have calculations being done incorrectly. But if you in fact look at the payroll software, there are methodologies within the payroll software which are not being taken advantage of to actually do those calculations. And if those calculations would be done, we could only assume that they would approximate what is necessary, or they would get somewhat closer to what is necessary. But for whatever reason, be it training or a lack of oversight with respect to the payroll software, or a misunderstanding of what the needs are, or people apparently are not addressing those aspects on the payroll side, such that wage rate calculations, at least in the province of Alberta, are not being properly undertaken or appear to not be properly being recorded and reported. It may be possible that those computations are occurring at some level, but are not being included in the pay statements. Nevertheless, the pay statements by law are required to include that. So there's an open question as to that. Also, because of the payroll software, there is all too often a common issue with respect to it, in that people look to the defaults. And most payroll software defaults to American payroll systems. And this not only applies to wages and wage rate, but all too often also applies to the concepts of vacation pay and general holiday pay, also known as statutory holiday pay, such that people look at it, they think they're satisfying what the payroll software does, not recognizing that they're simply allowing themselves to be brought into the default, which applies to another jurisdiction. And for most Canadian employees, they should not be defaulting to the United States and how they do their vacation pay, their vacation arrangements, and their general holiday pay. Because, first of all, there really is no concept consistent with Canadian legislation of vacation pay in the United States, nor is there general holiday pay. As we've talked about in other videos, these concepts are exclusive to Canada. In the States, there is a concept of paid vacation days and paid stat holiday days, but those are different and unique and are specific to the United States and truly don't have an equivalent in the Canadian legislation across the provinces. Although parties might want to use that because it's cheaper, it simply doesn't exist. So you cannot simply say, well, the payroll software is wrong. All too often, it's the fact that the payroll software has the functionality, but people are using the default systems to, in fact, provide the wrong pay results, either not reporting stuff and or not paying fully. And when you don't pay fully, you run into the situation of back pay. So you can't really say, I'm going to blame it on the software. And the employer cannot say, I'm going to blame it on software all the time. They just cannot simply use the defaults, and they have to investigate to make sure that they're doing things correctly. Because when they're not doing things correctly, more likely than not, especially in Canada, what's going to end up happening is that employees are underpaid, and they're going to need to, at one point, generally when they leave their job, they get fired, they get terminated or quit, they have to pursue it as back pay. And that's why you have to investigate stuff, and you cannot be reliant upon what the outputs of the software are, because if it's earned money and you've earned it, you're legally entitled to it, and now you simply have to find a way to investigate and pursue it. Thank you.